The morning Malcolm handed me divorce papers, I was still thinking about how good Cal's hands had felt on my shoulders the night before. Isn't it funny how life can flip upside down in a single moment? I'm Eulalia Drake Harker, 32 years old, and until 3 months ago, I thought I had the most boring marriage in suburban America. Malcolm, my husband of 10 years, is a high school history teacher who goes to bed at 9:30 every night and eats the same turkey sandwich for lunch every single day. Our daughter Nora is 9, sweet as pie, but even she was starting to notice the tension between us. The morning it all started unraveling began like any other. Malcolm was making his methodical breakfast, 2 eggs over easy, wheat toast, orange juice, while I scrolled through Instagram, looking at all the exciting lives other people were living. "Mom, why do you and Dad never talk anymore?" Nora asked, spooning cereal into her mouth. I glanced at Malcolm, who didn't even look up from his eggs. "We talk plenty, sweetheart. Adults just communicate differently." But Mrs. Peterson's parents laughed together. "You guys just exist. Out of the mouths of babes, right?" But instead of taking it as a wake-up call, I felt justified. See? Even our 9-year-old could tell how dead our marriage had become. "I'm working late again tonight," I announced, though Malcolm and I both knew I'd been working late 3 times this week already. Malcolm finally looked up. "Eulalia, your insurance office closes at 6. Where exactly are you working until 9 p.m.? His calm tone irritated me more than yelling would have. "There's a big case I'm handling, lots of paperwork. You wouldn't understand. You're home by 3:15 every day." "I'm home by 3:15 because I want to see our daughter after school." "Well, some of us have ambitions beyond teaching teenagers about the Revolutionary War." Nora's spoon clinked against her bowl. The kitchen went silent except for the hum of our refrigerator. Malcolm stood up, rinsed his plate with the same methodical movements he'd used for 10 years, and kissed Nora's forehead. "Have a good day at school, sweetheart. I'll pick you up at 3. He didn't kiss me goodbye. Hadn't in weeks. After they left, I called my mother, Vivian. "Honey, you sound stressed," she said immediately. "I am. Malcolm is being so suspicious lately. He questions everything I do." "That man has never appreciated you properly. You're 32, beautiful, successful. You shouldn't have to justify taking care of yourself." This is why I loved my mother. She understood that I deserved better than a boring routine with a man who thought excitement meant trying a new brand of coffee. "I just feel so trapped, Mum." "Then do something about it. Life is short, Eulalia. Don't waste it being miserable." Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible stories. I thought about Cal Finch, my personal trainer at FitZone Gym. 31 years old, gorgeous, and he actually listened when I talked. He made me feel alive in ways Malcolm never had. That afternoon, I headed to the gym early. Cal was waiting with that smile that made my stomach flutter. "There's my favorite client," he said, and I felt that familiar rush of being seen, really seen, by someone who appreciated me. "I needed this today," I said, settling onto the bench press. Malcolm was being difficult this morning. Cal spotted me as I lifted, his hand steady on the bar. "You know, Eulalia, you deserve someone who builds you up, not tears you down." "It's complicated. We have Nora, and Malcolm's family would never understand." "What about what you understand? What you need?" His green eyes held mine, and I felt something shift inside me. For the first time in years, someone was putting my needs first. After our session, Cal suggested coffee at the Bistro, this trendy cafe downtown. "Just to decompress," he said. "You look like you need to talk." The Bistro was everything Malcolm would hate. Loud music, exposed brick walls, people our age laughing and living their lives. Cal ordered us both specialty lattes that cost more than Malcolm spent on lunch for a week. Tell me about your dreams, Cal said, leaning across the small table. Not your obligations, not what everyone expects. What do you actually want? No one had asked me that in years. Malcolm assumed he knew what I wanted: stability, routine, a quiet suburban life. But sitting across from Cal, I realized I wanted passion, adventure, someone who saw me as more than just a wife and mother. I want to feel alive again, I admitted. Cal reached across the table and touched my hand. You deserve that, Eulalia. You deserve everything. When I got home at 7, Malcolm was helping Nora with homework at the kitchen table. How was work? He asked without looking up. Busy, very busy. Nora looked between us with those wise 9-year-old eyes. Mom, you smell like coffee. You don't drink coffee. My heart skipped, but Malcolm just nodded. Must have been a long day at the office. That night, lying in bed next to my sleeping husband, I replayed every moment with Cal. The way he looked at me, touched my hand, made me feel beautiful and interesting and alive. Malcolm stirred beside me. Eulalia? Yeah? Are we okay? Such a simple question, but I couldn't bring myself to answer honestly. We're fine, Malcolm, just tired. He was quiet for a long moment. Okay. Good night. But I could tell by his breathing that he didn't fall asleep for a long time. The next morning, Malcolm was already gone when I woke up. He'd left a note. Taking Nora to school early for her science project. Have a good day. M. Even his notes were boring. I called in sick to work and went to the gym instead. Cal was there, of course, with that smile that made everything else fade away. Couldn't stay away, he teased. I needed to see you. We worked out, but the tension between us was electric. When he adjusted my form, his hands lingered. When I laughed at his jokes, he moved closer. Let's skip the bistro today, he said after our session. I know a place. The place turned out to be his apartment, a sleek downtown loft that was everything our suburban house wasn't: modern, exciting, adult. This is beautiful, I said, running my fingers along his granite countertops. Not as beautiful as you. When he kissed me, I felt like I was finally waking up after 10 years of sleepwalking through my life. 3 weeks into my affair with Cal, I felt like a completely different person. I was glowing, energetic, alive in ways I'd forgotten were possible. The guilt was there, sure, but it was overshadowed by this incredible sense of finally getting what I deserved. Malcolm noticed the changes, of course. How could he not? You seem different lately, he said one evening as we cleaned up after dinner. Different how? Happier, more energetic. It's nice to see. The irony wasn't lost on me. I was happier because I was cheating on him, and he was glad to see it. I've been working out more, taking better care of myself. You should try it sometime. It was a low blow, and I knew it. Malcolm wasn't overweight or out of shape, just ordinary. But Cal had taught me that I didn't have to settle for ordinary. Maybe I will, Malcolm said quietly. Nora was in the living room, supposedly watching TV, but obviously listening to our conversation. Kids always know more than we think they do. Mom, can I start going to the gym with you? She asked. The gym isn't for children, sweetheart. But I want to spend time with you. You're never home anymore. Malcolm's dishwashing paused for just a moment. Your mum's been working very hard lately. At the gym? Nora asked innocently. At work, I said quickly. The gym is just stress relief. That weekend, Malcolm's mother Gina invited us for Sunday dinner. These family gatherings used to be pleasant enough, but lately they felt suffocating. Gina would ask probing questions about my schedule. Malcolm's brother Tristan would make jokes about married life, and I'd sit there feeling like a fraud. Eulalia looks wonderful, Gina said as we sat down to her pot roast. Doesn't she, Malcolm? She does, Malcolm agreed, but there was something in his tone I couldn't quite read. I've been taking better care of myself, I said, working with a personal trainer. How nice, Is it expensive? It's an investment in my health. Malcolm cut his meat with precise movements. Cal seems very dedicated. My fork stopped halfway to my mouth. You know Cal? You've mentioned him, your trainer, the one who's helping you with your stress relief. Gina looked between us with sharp eyes. She'd always been protective of Malcolm, and I could tell she sensed something was off. Well, Tristan said, clearly trying to lighten the mood, whatever you're doing, it's working. You look great, Eulalia. Thank you. It's amazing what happens when someone actually pays attention to you. The words came out sharper than I intended. Malcolm set down his fork. Excuse me? Nothing. Just, it's nice to have someone who listens. I listen. Do you? When's the last time you asked me about my dreams, my goals, anything beyond what's for dinner or whether the bills are paid? The dining room went silent. Nora was staring at her plate, and I realized I'd gone too far. Maybe we should discuss this at home, Malcolm said quietly. Why? Because it's uncomfortable? Because it doesn't fit into your neat little routine? Gina cleared her throat. Perhaps... No, it's fine, I said, standing up. I think I've lost my appetite anyway. I drove home alone, leaving Malcolm to get a ride with Tristan. My phone buzzed with a text from Cal. Missing you. When can I see you again? Instead of guilt, I felt validated. Here was someone who actually wanted to spend time with me. The next day at work, my colleague Janet Liu cornered me by the coffee machine. So, who is he? Who is who? Come on, Eulalia. I've known you for 5 years. You're glowing, you're dressing differently, you're actually happy on Monday mornings. Either you found religion or you found a man. I laughed, but my stomach clenched. You're imagining things. Am I? Because you've been leaving early for client meetings that aren't on your calendar, and yesterday, I saw you at the bistro with a very attractive man who definitely wasn't Malcolm. My blood ran cold. Janet. Hey, I'm not judging. Malcolm seems nice enough, but nice doesn't always cut it, you know. Just be careful. That afternoon I met Cal at the gym as usual, but I was distracted. What's wrong, beautiful? People are starting to notice. My coworker saw us at the bistro. Cal moved closer, his hand settling on my waist. So, you're not doing anything wrong. You're taking care of yourself, figuring out what you want. That's healthy. I'm married, Cal. Are you? Really? Because from everything you've told me, you're more like roommates who happen to share a kid. He wasn't wrong, but hearing it out loud made something twist in my chest. Malcolm's not a bad person, I said. I never said he was. But being not bad isn't the same as being right for you. That evening, Malcolm was waiting for me when I got home from the gym. We need to talk, he said. Nora was at the kitchen table, coloring, but she looked up with worried eyes. Nora, why don't you go play in your room for a bit? Malcolm suggested gently. Are you guys getting divorced? She asked, her voice small. No, sweetheart, I said quickly. We just need to have a grown-up conversation. After Nora left, Malcolm sat across from me at the kitchen table. I know something's going on, Eulalia. My heart pounded, but I kept my expression neutral. What do you mean? You're different, distant. You're never home, you're secretive about your schedule, and when you are here, you seem resentful. I'm not resentful, I'm just trying to better myself. By spending every evening at the gym? Yes. Is that a crime? Malcolm was quiet for a long moment. I called FitZone today. The world tilted. You what? I was thinking about joining, like you suggested, but they said you haven't been there every night like you claimed. In fact, you missed 3 sessions this week. I scrambled for an explanation. Sometimes Cal and I work out at other locations. He has access to different facilities. Cal. My trainer? You know that. Right, your trainer, who you spend so much time with that our daughter barely sees you anymore. That's not fair. Isn't it? When's the last time you helped her with homework? Or asked about her day? Or tucked her in at night? The accusations stung because they were true. I'd been so caught up in my new life with Cal that I'd been neglecting my old one. "I'm trying to improve myself, Malcolm. I thought you'd be supportive." "I want to be supportive, but I also want to understand what's really going on." I looked at my husband, really looked at him, and saw something I hadn't expected. He wasn't angry or accusatory. He looked hurt, confused, like he was trying to solve a puzzle he didn't have all the pieces to. "Nothing's going on," I said, but the lie felt heavy on my tongue. Malcolm nodded slowly. "Okay, if you say so." But as he walked upstairs, I knew he didn't believe me, and for the first time since this all started, I wondered if I was making a terrible mistake. That night, I lay awake thinking about Janet's warning, Malcolm's hurt expression, and Nora's question about divorce. But then I thought about Cal's hands, his attention, the way he made me feel beautiful and desired and alive. I deserved to be happy, didn't I? I deserved passion and excitement and someone who chose me every day, not just someone who stayed with me out of habit. My phone buzzed with a text from Cal. "Can't sleep. Thinking about you." I smiled and texted back, "Me too." Malcolm stirred beside me but didn't wake up. In the morning, I decided I'd have to be more careful, but I wasn't ready to give up the best thing that had happened to me in years. Not yet. 2 months into my affair, I felt invincible. Cal made me feel like the woman I was meant to be, confident, desirable, worth pursuing. Malcolm's quiet suspicions seemed pathetic in comparison to Cal's passionate attention. The breaking point came at another Sunday dinner at Gina's house. This time I made a decision that would change everything. "Cal, you should come with me," I said during one of our post-workout coffee sessions. "To your mother-in-law's house." Cal raised an eyebrow. "That seems risky." "Not as as my trainer. I could say I'm so dedicated to fitness that I wanted you to meet my family. Give them some health tips." Cal grinned. "I like the way you think. Plus, I'd love to see Malcolm in his natural habitat." The cruel edge in his voice should have been a warning sign, but I was too caught up in the thrill of it all. That Sunday, I walked into Gina's house with Cal beside me, his hand casually touching my lower back as he guided me through the door. "Everyone, I'd like you to meet Cal Finch, my personal trainer." The room went silent. Malcolm was setting the table and froze with plates in his hands. Gina's smile became strained. Tristan looked confused. "How nice," Gina said slowly. "We weren't expecting a guest." "Oh, I hope it's okay," Cal said with that charming smile that had first attracted me. "Eulalia's been telling me so much about her wonderful family. I just had to meet you all." Malcolm set down the plates carefully. "Of course, we always have room for one more." But his eyes were cold when they met mine. Nora bounded into the room and stopped short when she saw Cal. "Who are you?" "I'm Cal, your mom's friend from the gym." "Are you the reason mom's never home anymore?" Kids, they always cut straight to the truth. "Nora," I said quickly, "Cal is helping mommy get healthy and strong." "Your mom is amazing," Cal said, and I felt a thrill at the admiration in his voice. "She's one of the most dedicated clients I've ever had." Malcolm pulled out chairs around the dining table with mechanical precision. "How long have you two been working together?" "About 2 months now," Cal said easily. "Eulalia's made incredible progress. She's really committed to bettering herself." The emphasis on bettering herself wasn't lost on anyone. During dinner, Cal dominated the conversation. He talked about fitness trends, nutrition, the importance of breaking out of comfortable routines. With every word, I felt more validated in my choices. "Malcolm," Cal said, cutting into his pot roast, "Eulalia tells me you're a teacher. That must be stable." "It is," Malcolm replied evenly. "I could never do a job like that. Same thing every day, same routine, same people. I need variety, excitement, new challenges." I found myself nodding. That's what I love about working with Cal. Every day is different. Gina's fork clinked against her plate. Some people find comfort in routine, in knowing what to expect. Sure, Cal said with a dismissive shrug, if you want to sleepwalk through life. The insult hung in the air. Malcolm's jaw tightened, but he didn't respond. I think routine can be beautiful, Tristan said diplomatically. There's something to be said for consistency, for being dependable. Dependable, I repeated with a laugh that sounded harsh even to my own ears. That's one way to put it. Malcolm looked at me directly for the first time all evening. What would you call it? The question was loaded, and everyone at the table knew it. This was my chance to back down, to smooth things over, to protect my marriage and my family. Instead, I doubled down. Boring, I said. I'd call it boring. Nora's eyes filled with tears. Daddy isn't boring. Of course not, sweetheart, I said quickly, but the damage was done. Gina stood up abruptly. I think I'll get dessert ready. Let me help, Malcolm said, following his mother into the kitchen. I could hear their hushed conversation from the dining room. Gina's concerned voice, Malcolm's quiet responses. Cal leaned closer to me. You okay, beautiful? The endearment in front of my family felt dangerous and thrilling. I'm perfect. When Malcolm and Gina returned with coffee and pie, the atmosphere was arctic. Gina's usual warmth toward me had evaporated, and Malcolm looked like he was barely holding himself together. So, Cal, Gina said with forced politeness, do you work with many married women? I work with people who want to improve their lives, Cal replied smoothly. Sometimes that means helping them realize they deserve better than what they have. The statement was so boldly inappropriate that even Tristan shifted uncomfortably in his seat. Better how? Malcolm asked quietly. Cal met his gaze directly. Better everything. Better attention. Better appreciation. Better everything. I should have intervened. I should have changed the subject or made an excuse to leave. Instead, I felt a rush of power watching these two men face off over me. Attention and appreciation have to be earned, Gina said sharply. Do they? I asked. Or should they be freely given to the person you supposedly love? Malcolm set down his coffee cup with deliberate care. Eulalia, maybe we should go. Why? Because your family doesn't want to hear that I have opinions? That I want more from life than this? I gestured around the modest dining room. What's wrong with this? Nora asked, her voice small and confused. Nothing, I realized with a sinking heart. There was nothing wrong with this. A loving family, a stable home, people who cared about each other. But Cal's hand found mine under the table, and the touch erased my doubts. Nothing's wrong, baby, I said to Nora. Mummy just thinks we could all try harder to be our best selves. I think your daddy tries very hard, Gina said, her protective instincts fully engaged. I'm sure he does, Cal said with a condescending smile. Some people's best just isn't very inspiring. That was the final straw. Malcolm stood up so abruptly his chair scraped against the floor. I think it's time for you to leave, he said to Cal. Malcolm, I protested. Not you, Eulalia, him. I think Cal should leave now. Cal squeezed my hand. It's okay, beautiful. I can see this family isn't ready for honest conversation. He kissed my cheek before leaving, a deliberate possessive gesture that left no doubt about the nature of our relationship. After the door closed behind him, the silence was deafening. Eulalia, Gina said finally, what are you doing? I'm taking care of myself for once in my life. By humiliating your husband in front of his family. By refusing to pretend everything is perfect when it's not. Malcolm was staring at the floor, his hands clenched at his sides. When he looked up, his eyes were filled with a pain so raw it took my breath away. Is this what you want? He asked. To destroy our family for a man who talks about you like you're a possession. He called you beautiful 4 times in front of our daughter, Eulalia. He kissed you goodbye in front of my mother. He insulted me, my career, my family, and you sat there and let him. Maybe because some of what he said was true. The words came out before I could stop them. Nora burst into tears. and Tristan immediately went to comfort her. "Come on, sweetheart," Tristan said gently. "Let's go see if Grandma has any of those cookies you like." After they left, Malcolm and I stood facing each other in his mother's dining room, 10 years of marriage hanging in the balance. "Do you love him?" Malcolm asked. The question was so simple, so direct, that I didn't have a prepared answer. It's complicated. It's not complicated, Eulalia. Either you love him or you don't. I thought about Cal's passion, his attention, the way he made me feel alive. I thought about Malcolm's steady presence, his quiet devotion, the way he'd spent 10 years trying to build a life with me. "I don't know," I whispered. Malcolm nodded slowly, like he'd expected that answer. "Then I guess we have nothing left to talk about." He walked out of the dining room, leaving me standing alone among the remnants of what had once been a happy family dinner. When I got home that night, Malcolm was in his study with the door closed. I could hear him on the phone, his voice too low to make out the words. I texted Cal. That was intense. He replied immediately, "You were amazing, so brave to finally stand up for yourself." But as I lay in bed alone that night, listening to Malcolm moving around downstairs, I didn't feel brave. I felt like I'd just burned down everything I'd spent 10 years building. And the worst part was, I wasn't sure I cared. The incident at the bistro that would ultimately destroy my life started as what I thought was a romantic evening. Cal had been pushing me to be more public about our relationship, to stop hiding what we had. "Why should you sneak around like you're doing something wrong?" he said during one of our afternoon sessions at his apartment. "You deserve to be with someone who's proud to be seen with you." "It's not that simple, Cal. There's Nora to think about, and Malcolm's family. What about your happiness? When do you get to stop living for everyone else and start living for yourself?" He had a point. For 2 months, I'd been compartmentalizing my life. Dutiful wife and mother at home, passionate woman with Cal everywhere else. The constant switching was exhausting. "There's this new trend on social media," Cal continued, showing me his phone. "Women are posting videos of themselves choosing the exciting guy over the boring husband. It's all about female empowerment, taking control of your narrative." The videos he showed me were intoxicating. Confident women walking away from ordinary men towards someone who clearly adored them, all set to empowering music with captions like "choosing myself" and "finally free." "I could never do something like that," I said, but I was already imagining it. "Why not? You're beautiful. You're strong. You deserve to be celebrated." That Friday night, Cal suggested dinner at the bistro. "Just us, no hiding, no excuses. Let's show the world what real connection looks like." I told Malcolm I was working late again, a lie that was becoming easier each time I told it. The bistro was packed with the usual crowd: young professionals, couples on dates, groups of friends celebrating the end of the work week. Cal had reserved a prime table near the window, and he looked incredible in a fitted black shirt that showed off his physique. "To new beginnings," he said, raising his wine glass. "To new beginnings," I echoed, feeling bold and reckless and alive. We were halfway through dinner when Cal's expression changed. He was looking past me toward the entrance, and his smile turned predatory. Well, well, look who decided to join us." I turned around and felt my stomach drop. Malcolm was walking through the door, still in his work clothes, his eyes scanning the restaurant until they found me. "How did he—" "Does it matter?" Cal leaned back in his chair, completely relaxed. "This is perfect, actually. Time to stop living a lie." Malcolm approached our table with measured steps, his face unreadable. Several other diners had noticed the tension and were watching with interest. "Eulalia," Malcolm said quietly. "I think we need to talk." "We're in the middle of dinner," Cal said before I could respond. "Maybe make an appointment." Malcolm's eyes flicked to Cal, then back to me. "I found the credit card statements, Eulalia. Hotel charges, restaurant bills, all during your supposed overtime hours." My face burned. Around us, people were definitely listening now. "Malcolm, please, not here." "Where then?" At home where you're never present. At my mother's house where you humiliate me in front of my family. Cal stood up and I realized he was several inches taller than Malcolm. I think the lady asked you to leave. The lady is my wife. Is she? Because she doesn't seem very happy about that. The restaurant had gone quiet around us. I could see phones being pulled out, people positioning themselves to record what was clearly about to become a scene. Cal, don't... I started. No, it's fine, Cal said loudly, his voice carrying across the restaurant. Everyone should see what it looks like when a woman finally chooses passion over settling. He pulled me to my feet and kissed me, long and dramatic, while Malcolm stood frozen and at least a dozen phones recorded every second. When Cal finally released me, the restaurant was dead silent except for the click of camera phones. Choose, Eulalia, Cal said, his voice carrying to every corner of the room. The man who makes you feel alive, or the one who's been slowly killing your spirit for 10 years. It was like something out of a movie, and I was the star. Every eye in the restaurant was on me, waiting to see what I would do. I could see the phones recording, capturing what felt like the most important moment of my life. Malcolm looked at me with an expression I'd never seen before. Not anger, not hurt, but something like resignation mixed with disappointment. Eulalia, he said quietly, please don't do this. Think about Nora. But Cal's hand was warm in mine, and the attention was intoxicating, and I felt more alive than I had in years. I'm sorry, Malcolm, I heard myself say, but I choose myself for once. The restaurant erupted in murmurs and gasps. Cal pulled me closer, triumphant, while Malcolm stood there like he'd been slapped. You heard her, Cal said. She's made her choice. Malcolm nodded slowly, then did something unexpected. He smiled, not a happy smile, but something sad and knowing. Okay, he said simply. I understand. He turned to leave, but Cal couldn't resist one final humiliation. Must be hard, Cal called out, losing your wife to a better man. Malcolm stopped walking. The entire restaurant held its breath. When Malcolm turned back around, his expression had changed. The hurt was still there, but underneath it was something harder, more determined. You know what, Cal? You're absolutely right. She made her choice, and now I get to make mine. He walked out without another word, leaving me standing in the middle of the bistro, with Cal's arm around me and dozens of strangers' phones capturing every moment. That was incredible, Cal whispered in my ear. You were so brave. But as I watched Malcolm's retreating figure through the window, something cold settled in my stomach. Within an hour, videos of the confrontation were all over social media. Bistro breakup was trending locally, with most comments supporting Malcolm and calling me everything from homewrecker to worse. Don't read that garbage, Cal said as we went back to his apartment. Those people don't know you, don't know what you've been through. But I couldn't stop scrolling through the comments. That poor man, so dignified even while his wife humiliated him publicly. The husband handled that with such class. She'll regret this. Imagine doing this to your family for a gym, bro. Embarrassing. Feel so bad for their kid. Mom just destroyed her family for social media clout. The mention of Nora made me physically sick. I tried calling home, but no one answered. They need time to process, Cal said, pulling me into his arms. You did the right thing, Eulalia. You chose authenticity over pretense. But when I finally went home the next morning, the house was empty. Malcolm and Nora were gone, and there was a note on the kitchen counter in Malcolm's careful handwriting. Eulalia, Nora and I are staying at my mother's for a few days. I think we all need some space to figure out what comes next. The videos are everywhere, and Nora's friends have seen them. Please think about what you want your life to look like, because after last night, there's no going back. Malcolm. I sank into a kitchen chair, still wearing the dress I'd worn to dinner with Cal, and realized that my moment of triumph was starting to feel like the biggest mistake of my life. But it was too late now. The videos were out there, my choice was public record, and there was no taking back what I'd done. I'd gotten what I wanted. I'd chosen passion over stability, excitement over routine. Now I just had to live with the consequences. The week after the bistro incident, my carefully constructed world began collapsing faster than I could have imagined. It started at work on Monday morning. Janet Liu avoided eye contact when I walked in, and conversation stopped when I passed by. By lunch, I understood why. Eulalia, my supervisor Rebecca Martinez, called me into her office. "We need to talk." She closed the door and gestured for me to sit down. On her desk was a printout of one of the viral videos from the bistro. "This is you, isn't it?" My mouth went dry. "Rebecca, my personal life became company business when you started lying about overtime to cover affair-related activities." She opened a file folder. "We've been reviewing your time cards against building security logs. You've claimed 43 hours of overtime in the past 2 months, but security shows you leaving the building at normal hours on 31 of those days." The room spun. "I can explain." "Can you?" "Because we also have credit card records showing hotel and restaurant charges during hours you claim to be working here. That's time card fraud, Eulalia. It's grounds for immediate termination." I thought about Cal's promises of a new life, his assurances that I deserved better. None of that would matter if I lost my job. "Please, Rebecca, I made some mistakes, but I can fix this. The company is conducting a full investigation. You're suspended without pay, pending the results." Walking out of the office with a box of my personal belongings, I felt the stares of my co-workers. Janet Liu was by the elevator, and for a moment I thought she might say something supportive. Instead, she shook her head. "I tried to warn you, Eulalia. I really did." I drove straight to Cal's apartment, desperate for comfort and reassurance. "They can't fire you for having a personal life," Cal said, but he seemed distracted, scrolling through his phone while I cried. "It's not about my personal life. It's about the lying, the fake overtime claims. So you made some creative scheduling choices. Big deal." His dismissive tone stung. "Cal, I could lose everything. My job, my house." "Hey." He finally put down his phone and pulled me close. "You've got me, remember? We'll figure this out together." But when I tried to kiss him, he turned his head slightly, and I caught him checking his phone again over my shoulder. That afternoon, I drove to Gina's house to see Nora. My daughter had been staying there since the restaurant incident, and I missed her desperately. Gina answered the door but didn't invite me in. "Is Nora here? I need to see her." "She's at school, Eulalia." "Then I'll wait." "No, you won't." Gina's voice was steel. "That child has been through enough this week. She's my daughter." She's a 9-year-old who watched her mother choose another man over her father in front of a restaurant full of strangers. She's been crying herself to sleep every night. The words hit me like physical blows. I never meant for her to see, but she did see. The whole school has seen, thanks to those videos. Do you have any idea what you've done to that little girl? Behind Gina, I could see Malcolm in the living room, grading papers at the coffee table. He looked up when he heard my voice, but made no move to come to the door. "Malcolm," I called out, "we need to talk." He set down his pen and walked over, but stayed behind his mother. "What do you want to talk about, Eulalia?" "About us, about fixing this. There is no us anymore. You made that very clear on Friday night." "I made a mistake." "No," Malcolm said quietly. "You made a choice. In front of dozens of people, with cameras rolling, you chose him. But I want to choose differently now. It doesn't work that way." For the first time since I'd known him, Malcolm's voice carried real anger. "You don't get to humiliate me publicly, destroy our daughter's sense of security, and then change your mind when the consequences catch up with you. Malcolm, please." "I filed for divorce this morning, Eulalia, and I'm requesting primary custody of Nora." The world tilted. "You can't do that." "Actually, I can, especially when I have video evidence of you prioritizing an affair over your family, financial records of you stealing from your employer to fund that affair, and a school counselor's report about the emotional distress your actions have caused our daughter. Gina stepped forward. You need to leave now, Eulalia. This is insane. You can't keep me from my daughter. I'm not keeping you from her, Malcolm said, but I'm not going to let you hurt her anymore either. When you're ready to put Nora's needs before your own, we can discuss visitation. The door closed in my face, leaving me standing on the porch of the house where I'd spent countless Sunday dinners, now completely shut out. I drove to the bistro, hoping Cal would meet me there, but he said he was busy, so I sat alone at the bar, drinking wine and watching people whisper and point at me. You're the woman from the videos, the bartender said eventually. Yeah. That was pretty intense. Your husband seemed like a decent guy. He is, I said before I could stop myself. So why'd you do it? It was a simple question, but I didn't have a simple answer. Why had I thrown away 10 years of marriage, hurt my daughter, and destroyed my reputation for a man who couldn't even be bothered to comfort me when my life was falling apart? When I got back to my empty house that night, there was an envelope on the kitchen counter. Inside were divorce papers and a custody petition, along with a note from Malcolm. Eulalia, I've spent the last 3 days trying to understand how we got here. I've read every text, looked at every credit card statement, talked to lawyers and counselors, and anyone who might help me make sense of this. What I've realized is that you've been unhappy for a long time, and instead of talking to me about it, you chose to have an affair. Instead of working on our marriage, you chose to lie and steal, and ultimately humiliate both of us in public. I can't fix a marriage when only one person wants to be in it. I can't trust someone who lies to my face for months, and I can't expose Nora to any more of this chaos. I hope you find whatever it is you're looking for, but you won't find it at the expense of our daughter's well-being. Malcolm, I called Cal, desperate to hear his voice, to be reminded why I'd made these choices. Hey, beautiful, he answered, but there was something different in his tone. Can you come over? I really need you tonight. Actually, I can't. I'm dealing with some stuff. What kind of stuff? The gym is getting some negative attention because of those videos. My boss thinks it's bad for business, having a trainer who breaks up marriages. My blood ran cold. Are you in trouble? Nothing I can't handle, but maybe we should keep a low profile for a while. Cal, I lost my job today. Malcolm filed for divorce. I need you. There was a long pause. This is all moving pretty fast, Eulalia. Maybe we should take a step back, let things cool down. Take a step back? You're the one who pushed me to make that choice at the restaurant. I supported you in choosing authenticity, but I didn't know it would get this complicated. Complicated. He was calling the destruction of my life complicated. So, what are you saying? I'm saying maybe we rushed into this. Maybe you need to figure out your situation before we can really be together. The line went dead, and I realized I was completely alone. I'd lost my husband, my job, my daughter's respect, and now the man I'd sacrificed everything for was abandoning me when I needed him most. Sitting in my empty kitchen, surrounded by divorce papers and the wreckage of my choices, I finally understood what Malcolm had tried to tell me at the bistro. I'd made my choice, and now I had to live with it. But living with it was going to be harder than I'd ever imagined. 6 months after that night at the bistro, I sat in a courthouse waiting room, preparing for what would be the final hearing in my divorce and custody case. Everything I'd once taken for granted, my marriage, my job, my reputation, my relationship with my daughter, had crumbled away. Cal had officially ended things 2 weeks after my suspension from work became a termination. He'd found a new job at a gym across town and, according to social media, a new girlfriend who didn't come with baggage. The man who'd promised me passion and excitement had disappeared the moment my life got difficult. My mother Vivian sat beside me, one of the few people still in my corner, though even her support had wavered when the full extent of my lies came to light. You look tired, honey, she said, squeezing my hand. I was tired. Exhausted, actually. The past 6 months had been a relentless series of legal meetings, job interviews that went nowhere once potential employers Googled my name, and supervised visits with Nora that broke my heart every single time. "Mrs. Harker," a bailiff appeared at the courtroom door. "Judge Morrison is ready for you." This is a powerful, poignant ending to Eulalia's story, one that feels earned rather than rushed. You've shifted the tone from the raw humiliation and consequences of the earlier chapters to something quieter, but far more hopeful. Genuine accountability, without excuses, and a realistic path forward. The courtroom scene is unflinching. The judge's words are brutal but fair, and the supervised visitation and child support rulings land like the natural, foreseeable outcome of Eulalia's choices. There's no magical leniency here, which makes the small mercies, Malcolm's job lead, Nora's cautious "I miss you," hit harder. Malcolm's final gesture is perfect, not forgiveness, not reconciliation, but a single practical act of grace for the sake of their daughter. It keeps his dignity intact while giving Eulalia a real lifeline, one she has to choose to take, and her conversation with Nora is heartbreaking in the best way. A 9-year-old articulating the exact harm done, yet still leaving the door cracked open. The closing reflection, the difference between what you want and what you need, ties everything together without being preachy. Eulalia isn't redeemed yet, she's only at the very beginning of earning it, but for the first time, she's pointed in the right direction, and the reader believes she might actually follow through. This feels like a complete arc. The affair story that began with thrill-seeking and self-deception ends not with punishment alone, but with the hard-won recognition that real love, especially parental love, is measured in steady presence, not grand gestures or viral moments. Beautifully done, quiet, honest, and hopeful without being sentimental. If this is the final chapter, it's a strong one.